Hello, everybody. Thanks so much for joining in today. Welcome to another AMA here in the Polygon Discord. Today, we got a really special guest with us. We have Kieran Daniels. He's the CEO and co founder of Streams. How are you doing today, Kieran?
Doing very well. Thank you so much for setting this up. And I know we've been talking for a couple months, so it's an exciting time.
Yeah, I'm fired up to have you here finally. Thrilled to do this and talk about streams. But before we jump into streams, let's talk a bit about you, who you are, what's your background, what were you doing before crypto, and what got you into the space and ultimately working on streams.
Oh, totally great. Yeah. So my name's Kieran Daniels. I'm 35 now. Had to think about it. Grew up in Idaho in the mountains, like small town. Um, was really into like marketing back when like SEO was a thing, and kind of always did digital marketing and online stuff. And then even back in Boise, that's kind of when I discovered crypto. I was like a pretty big gamer, buying like Diablo 2 items online and all that. And that was back when like Bitcoin was a big joke, and it was $7 or whatever. So everyone has their early stories, but we were just doing it for video games. But got really turned on to it, but I never really did any code or went that direction. So I went pretty heavy marketing for most of my early career. Ended up moving to California about 10 years ago. Um, Worked with a company or started a company called instapage.com. It's a drag and drop website builder similar to Wix, but for marketing. So we bootstrapped that. That almost failed for like a couple years, figured it out, ended up scaling that. It's a SaaS up to about 500,000 users. Exited that. That was about 2015, I think. And then did early stage consulting for a little bit up until about 2017. And then that's kind of when crypto kicked off. Before, if you were a really heavy coder or something, you could be involved, but it was hard for like marketing and growth side and business development and stuff. So around, yeah, the whole ICO thing or right before then, realized like, oh, there's money in this now. It's kicking up, and kind of just turned my back on Web 2, fired all my consulting clients, and just jumped in, worked. I never did any ICOs or any tokens on my own, but I would just kind of bop around projects and doing like referral programs and like, real marketing and helping with that. Figured out the network and all that. And then I think really the catalyst was when like ETH Global kind of started kicking off in the early days. Went to ETH Denver for the first time. That's where I met my co-founder Jugas, and kind of a lot of different people. Really got excited about that network, and then that's when I met the guys over at Block Native. So in 2018, moved back up to SF for a little bit, and I did business development for Block Native for about a year. I got their first 100 integrations, and that really got me involved with like Gnosis Safe and stuff at the protocol level and mempools. So I really kind of understood the potential of where crypto is going. And then yeah, when COVID hit, no one really needed growth, and it kind of tightened everything. So left Block Native, and then that's when Jugas and I decided to start streams. So in the middle of a pandemic, good timing. But yeah, we so that was about a year and a half ago now.
Wow, that's an incredibly impressive resume. It sounds like you have tons of experience. So we'll definitely want to get some advice and like insight from you towards the end of this. But
Love that.
I want to jump into streams and like what inspired you guys to create streams. Like, what's the philosophy behind it?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, we were kind of like, that was back when DeFi didn't really exist, or it was just going. Kind of stable coins were just becoming, a real thing. So it's very early on in all this, even though that was only like, I guess, 4 years ago or whatever, or sooner. But what really inspired it is being kind of, I guess, in the trenches of different projects, understanding like the problems, and kind of, I had like a consumer mindset, I guess, from being in consumer SaaS and stuff. And I just, I realized that the user experience was just way too hard. And I think that's an obvious thing for a lot of people, but we're in this small little bubble of crypto people. So a lot of the focus was on protocols and more decentralization and stablecoins and stuff like that. But early on, my co-founder and I realized like, okay, the real play here is like consumer, and that's really what's going to open this up to everyone. And then, on top of that, like ease of use, it realized that self-custody was really what was going to be kind of the defining factor in our opinion. And, it's still not fully matured, and people still don't kind of understand that concept. So what inspired it is kind of the need for self-custody and the need to just open up DeFi to everyone.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, and I really think that'll be one of the next big verticals or narratives. Like, I was talking with my parents recently about crypto, and I said to them, I was like, I don't expect you guys to do any of the stuff that I'm doing right now, like all these like contract approvals and segregating wallets. Like it's kind of complicated and like
Yeah,
different RPCs and networks. Like so, I definitely think these apps like streams that abstract away the complexity of DeFi are going to be huge. So yeah, I guess let's talk more about like what streams is and like what services they offer.
yeah, great question. So we streams, I guess, in like kind of the unsexy way, but the way to get it across is we really created this like super app. So the core of it is that, self custody is the core concept, and that's what's important. But because like how EVM works, and because how powerful Gnosis is, and because like what Polygon can do with scaling, we were able to kind of weave all that together into an app where people can, normal everyday investors can use it. So, it's built on Gnosis as an operating system. So everything in the back end is totally self custody. We can't touch funds. So even if we wanted to rug, we couldn't. Even if we went away, for whatever reason, like all your funds are stored on device, and we launch a new Gnosis safe or now safe for each new user. So self custody is the main important thing, and then like you said, like we're still at the level like where email was 10 years ago, where it's like you had to know like STMP and like how to like do different protocol levels to send an email. Like that's never going to work. You know what I mean? So we ended up, doing all the legwork and figuring out how to use Plaid. We use Stripe. So the app is, I guess that's a good point. The app is targeting, traditional investors. Like we're not targeting DeFi people. We think, a lot of DeFi people use it, and a lot of crypto people use it because it's so easy and it's great products. But we're really targeting, like Fidelity users, Robinhood users, Vanguard, Acorns, people that are never gonna figure out a wallet, and they need that ease of onboarding. So, to summarize, I guess it's very similar to like what you would get with like maybe mixing Fidelity or Acorns. So the user downloads the app, they take a 6 question, very quick quiz, that it's very similar to like what Fidelity does. Like, if this happened in the market, what would you do? Like, what are your main goals? And it kind of gives a rating on risk. So we have conservative, balanced, growth, and aggressive, and that's kind of the four products. So the user downloads the app, takes the risk assessment quiz, gets matched with one of the products. They can buy whatever they want, but it helps the user kind of understand what's happened before. So we're not trying to be like a trading app or a get rich quick app. Like it's much more like kind of Acorns, or like you said, like Vanguard or an ETF, where we want to help people understand what's happened in the past to just get a better idea starting from zero, and then they can choose kind of how they want to act moving forward.
Definitely. And so there's these like four different products. I think that you've referred to them before as like the four different streams of income. Um, I'm wondering if we could do a bit like of a breakdown of how each individual stream works.
Yeah, exactly. So the back end, it gets a little technical, but the back end is, so the way to think of it easiest is it's almost like you're buying baskets of assets, but they're not really baskets because it's, self custody digital assets. So what we have, these four products: there's conservative, balanced, growth, and aggressive, and each one are a different combination of spot ETH. So you would get, actual ETH in your safe, and then we're using idle finance for the initial product launches. And what idle does is it aggregates all the lending protocols together. So it splits risk over, Aave, DYDX, Maker. And what it also does is it aggregates by risk adjustment up and down. So there's tranches. There's a best yield adjusted and a best risk adjusted, to simplify it. So really what we did is really what the app is we're limiting users, right? Like that sounds weird, but there's so many different things, so many different tokens. So what we're doing is we're creating this app where these are the only things that they can buy, but it's based on these models we've created. So if a user bought conservative, they would get, with 1,000, like 40% of the best risk adjusted, 20% of the yield, and then X amount of ETH. And then based on the historical like data and performance of those, you can see what happened, and it's based on volatility. So some people might have more assets and they want a more conservative thing, or some people, maybe they're younger and they have less assets. It's more like a Robinhood type user, and they might want more aggressive where they can handle more volatility. But again, in an unsexy way, all that's happening is the user is being able to onboard from fiat, get crypto, escape inflation, and then buy these baskets, if you will, of assets.
Yeah, definitely. There's so many like major advantages to this, and I think it's like really cool all the stuff that's going on in the back end, like how each user is assigned their own Gnosis safe, and how it's originally deployed on Polygon. Can we talk a bit more about how that works? Like, um,
Yeah, definitely. So it was, we had this big idea about a year and a half ago, and it's a lot of heavy lifting. When you use the app, it's super simple. It's all abstracted. You don't see safes, you don't see tokens, you don't see anything. But the backend's pretty heavy lifting. So, back in the day, in the very beginning, it used to cost like $5 or $10 to deploy a save. Like before, I guess DeFi summer, before Yearn and everything. And then when Wifey kicked off and DeFi really started, it was like $120 per thing. So $5 wasn't even really possible, like when you're looking at cost of customer acquisition and whatnot. So we always want to do layer two in the very beginning, but early on, like we had to make it work. So, this was about 9, 10 months ago. We talked to all the different, layer twos or scaling solutions, and each one kind of does its own different thing. Like Optimism's really awesome for like AMMs and higher security and different type things. But what Polygon provides is this like consumer layer. So what we do to kind of simplify it is we'll do all of our transactions. We deploy all of the Gnosis safes on Polygon, and we do all the transactions on Polygon. And then when those transactions reach a certain threshold, we actually batch back to mainnet. So, like let's say when we first launch, we only have like 1,000 users, or let's say even 100. Then there might be like 10, 10 new users or two safes deployed on Polygon, or 10 safes deployed on Polygon in like a 24-hour period. So we would set the threshold to 24 hours, and then those 10 safes would split that one transaction cost. So, but that scales infinitely upwards. So when we have 1,000 users, 10,000 users, we can set that and adjust that threshold, and then batch that over to mainnet. And that's kind of how we're able to do this at such an affordable and consumer level. And Polygon just provides the most amazing infrastructure for that. We use Gnosis contracts for most of everything. Like we really use them as an operating system. And I think a lot of people are going to do this. They just don't kind of look at it that way. But it allows us to work with any EVM protocol, and it allows us to just, like you said, batch over with Polygon. And it just makes it, makes it pretty amazing.
I find that like incredible. How much stuff is going on in the back end, and you just like abstract away all the complexity, and then you're tapping into all these like classic blue chip DeFi strategies. And like earlier you mentioned that you're like kind of limiting the user to what they have access to, but I think that is really good in the sense that I feel like a lot of new people in DeFi, they'll come into the space and get like drawn in by like something shiny. I'm gonna coin it that way, and then they just get scammed and rug pulled, and it ruins the overall DeFi experience. And it's like if they weren't being like greedy or overly optimistic and just focused on the stuff that's like blue chip actually works, and it's like guaranteed like safe yield, it's just like much better overall experience.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, there's something shiny things totally accurate, and confusion, and it's just yeah, it's easy to go down a path. I mean, so it's easy to just chase stuff, right? Like people always want more profits, and whatever. So we really tried to make it like, hey, look, understand the market, look at what's happened in the past. This will help you make a decision moving forward. And yeah, I mean, it's like we'll never compete with an exchange. We'll never integrate Uniswap. We're never going to do just tokens and stuff like that. Like we really want to be kind of that open gateway for people to kind of have like a soft landing, I guess, to get into it, and that'll create exposure for everyone. What we really did is like, so I'm very consumer focused, so I'm guilty of this, but really hyper focusing on these initial products, get traction, grow it. But what we really created was a self-custody buying power layer. So like because of how we use Gnosis and Polygon and how everything interacts, we started with idle just because it made the most sense for these products. But we can integrate any EVM compatible protocol in like 2 or 3 days the way we built it. So, we already have plans to put Yearn in. One of the first major upgrades was like index co-op, like offering DPI. And what our thoughts is keep it hyper focused to your point, like kind of limited. This is, the two main things are escaping inflation, like getting out of that system, and then earning passive income. You know what I mean? Like people are hurting, and everyone wants to, have their assets work for them, and it's hard without trusting a centralized entity. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, definitely that makes tons of sense. And like I guess what does it look like for a user who with one of these accounts created, like since it's a Gnosis safe, like it's probably viewable on chain, of course, right? Like I'm just curious, like what is how could the user like still access this even without the stream's front end?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we're we'll be very like we're bound to launch a new website. We're going to be really focused on educational content. Like we'll explain all this very well, but our we're targeting like normies. Like we're targeting traditional people that want plaid, that want to use their bank account, that want that trust. So our front end is totally closed source, and that's what we're building. Like we're not building an open source protocol or anything like that. So and then we charge fees for that experience, for the onboarding, for all the app, for everything that's involved in it. The back end is true self custody. Like I said, you can't even touch it. So we built it on APIs. So to answer your question directly, if in the case like we went away, like if a user just wanted to recover their funds without using us, that wallet's on chain, so they can go access Gnosis Safe. They can go recover those funds. They have access. I can get into the keys too and how that works. They can recover it and whatnot. If they want to use the app, then that's how, it's a closed source thing. We charge the fees, and it's, people that want to use it are kind of happy to do that. If you're a DeFi power user, you might not ever want to use streams just because, like, our models are really cool, but you could go like copy them. You could use MetaMask and go get idle, and that's great. We're really trying to provide like an affordable service for those people. So what we do is from the front end, we whitelist all of the Gnosis accounts. So we generate the Gnosis safe, and then we whitelist that to be able to use in the app. But it's absolutely free and on chain. So if you wanted to go use the Gnosis safe, if you wanted to quit using streams and go do it on your own, if you wanted to recover your funds, then that's all you, and we have no control over that. The way the keys work, actually, we use Apple Secure Enclave. So that's pretty much like the most secure thing you can do. It's what secures your biometrics on your phone and whatnot. So we actually generate two keys one key for ourselves, which is an operational key. So we're really just packaging transactions. And then the user has two keys. So they have their operating and signing key, and then they have their recovery key. So by default, the user has, two signatures, and we have one. So what we're really doing is we're packaging all these transactions and doing all this stuff, and going from like the fiat on ramp to USDC to tokens and back. And then the user just sees, normal transaction, sign that and whatnot. But if they wanted to recover it, if we went away or they wanted to use it or whatnot, they have that secondary key that they can access and use. So
Yeah, I think it's insanely innovative, what you're doing right now. So where are you guys like currently at in terms of like stages of development?
oh yeah, great. So this is one of those things where like we wanted to be launched, 7, 8 months ago. But things just take time to build them correctly. But we're launching now. So we actually just pushed to production. It's iOS at first only. We wanted to do iOS and Android both, but we after hiring like extreme pro developers that understood it better than us, like we decided to, a lot of people, we want to focus on USA at first. A lot of people are going to be, a lot of kind of like our power users will be there. So we're launching with iOS, and then we're going to build native Android right after. So expect that in about 6 months, and that's where we'll expand globally. But we just pushed to test flight to production. So we're using, everything works. It's live bank accounts. Everything's going. We're doing like a heavy paid testing phase and kind of, getting other people in and friends and family and testing right now. That'll probably take about another 2 weeks, and then we're going to push to the App Store. So we're ready to go. I'm, going to release a new website. We have about 5,000 people after we scrubbed it on the wait list. So we're really excited. We've been talking about this, for a year and a half, and building and changing it and making it better and whatnot. So we're very excited to kind of get it out and get feedback and start helping people.
Epic. And can like listeners go and access the test version right now?
Yes, definitely. So two things. We have the test flight link. I don't think I sent it to you before. So I'll as
Oh,
soon as we're done with this, I'll send that, and then we can distribute that.
I think you
And then
did
also,
send it
oh,
to
I
me.
did.
If you want, I could drop it in the chat.
Yes, that link's perfect. So that's the public test flight link. I remember now. I did send it to you. And then make sure to use production. It's kind of test flight's still. I mean, this is really early. You know what I mean? Like or not in like the overall development, but early for like the app staging. You still have to download test flight, install it, and whatnot. Pick the production one, and then we actually made a referral code, Polygon 100, and we'll put all this information out, and that'll just give you $100. Like we really want testers in there. We want people trying it out, breaking it, giving us feedback. So that'll give you $100 of of buying power, a saving stream that we call it, and you can keep that, and there's no limit on that, or there's no catch or anything. But yeah, we would love to get people in. Again, test flight's a little annoying, so if expect that. But yeah, we're at that point where it's working and everything's alive and great. So we're just trying to get it out now.
That's amazing. That's such an incredible promotion to drive like adoption of this. And I know you were like mentioning that um, DeFi users might not like be wanting to use streams because a lot of them can just tap into the strategies they use themselves. But I feel like this is like a really cool app to refer to people who aren't as like crypto savvy as us.
Exactly. I mean, that's our main, that's really what we're going to focus on is incentivizing referral. Just giving the farm away at first, obviously scaling it back later. But it's everyone knows someone, everyone in crypto knows someone that wants to be involved, but it's just not even too hard, or they just don't care. Like you shouldn't have to know all this stuff. You know what I mean? Like it should be this easy. So yeah, we're going to drive heavy on referral. I personally think that a lot of DeFi people will use the app just because of the ease of use. Like we didn't build it like we built it really cool. Like we built it how we would want it. Like we're using, we understand DeFi. We're going to be using Idle and Yearn and all the different protocols. So, I think that a lot of people, this is more of like an Acorns type app. Like it's hard to kind of compare to TradFi, and you always have to have like the Uber of, right? So it's really more of like a like a better savings account, passive income. Like I said, it's a self custody buying power layer. So we will expand. We'll once you earn some money, then you go back to we call it a savings stream because you still earn money on your buying power. But people want broad exposure. They might want DPI, or they might want like fixed income, or we really want to do insurance too. But yeah.
Yeah, and you mentioned that the first like demographic you'll be targeting is the United States of America. I'm curious, like how do users get onboarded to the app? Like, is there like some kind of fiat on ramps you guys are using?
Yeah, great. That's a great question, man. And that's kind of how this all works. Like we're pretty transparent about this. You know what I mean? Like how all the pieces work and everything. So on ramps are how it all works. So we decided like okay, we should probably just focus on the United States at first, just for effort focused, and it's a higher percentage of people, and it's iOS kind of heavier there. So Wire really killed it with that. WYRE, if people aren't familiar, they've been around for I think like 8 years or 10 years, or maybe that's a little long, but they've been around from the beginning, and they have the money transmitter licenses, the MTLs, they have all the regulations in all these different states. So and that fee's wrapped in. We pay their fee and that. So what the user's actually doing, they download the app and they just see fund the account, which again it's not going to us, it's going to their device, but they're just taking their fiat and buying USDC in the background. So that's the reason too, and how we're going to scale differently. Right now it's just Wire and it's just USA, but give us about 6 months, we'll have Android, which is kind of way more used over the globe, and then we're going to partner with different on ramps. So we're already talking to Synapse. We're talking to MoonPay. Jose over there is awesome. So each on ramp kind of has its niche, I guess, or it's like regions where they're um, I guess better, you know what I mean? Like where they can provide more services and whatnot. So we're agnostic to all this though. So, we picked kind of what we thought would do best initially, but we're going to be expanding and integrating different on ramps, expanding to different regions. And that's like a big deal to us too. Like getting, because I mean, I would say more than half the people we talk to and know are in other countries, and they're really appreciate this and really want that. So we'll do it as quickly as possible. But yeah, that's a great question. It's the on ramps allow this to happen. That's how you know I guess a good thing to talk about is like regulation. Like where is everything going? We saw that a couple of years ago. Like, hey, where's the regulatory landscape? I think self custody is going to go to the Supreme Court. I think that that's really what's going to define all this. But we're also kind of trying to hedge on this. Like we're DeFi nerds at heart, and we're all about not censorship, and that's kind of like my day to day. But there's a reality too of like how do we onboard everyone, and what battles are coming up on the regulatory landscape. So like initially we didn't even want to do KYC. We're doing like Plaid where you just verify your identity, but we're not storing any of that. It's double bind to Plaid, but that's coming down. So if you want to use a consumer app versus like a decentralized protocol, there's going to be some sort of KYC because there has to be some sort of on ramp, right? And it still feels dirty to say that, but it's like we're not storing that info, we're not doing that. But like if we didn't do that right now, then in 6 months when that becomes probably the first regulatory thing that comes down, like then we would be non-compliant, right? So what we're trying to do is defend self-custody and the decentralized aspect of it as much as possible, but we're also hedging in the sense of like, if if KYC comes down, we're covered. If some sort of like broker regulation comes down, then we would have to decide like, do we want to shut down or do we want to work within that system? But we kind of see this as almost like a Trojan horse thing. Is like we are like true DeFi people, and a lot of our investors and a lot of our angels are all kind of the who's who of DeFi founders in the most humble way. But we all built together in the bear market, so we're all kind of trying to figure out a way to navigate the regulatory system and get this out to consumers all over the world.
Yeah, most definitely. I feel like go like since you guys are self-custodial, it would be a huge overstep to go after an app like you. Essentially, like the way I look at it is, you guys are kind of like a middleware that just improves
Exactly.
the user experience. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's really what we're trying to do too. Like we're not trying to be some like earn profits or some crazy thing. Like we want to be very simple. Like I hate to use the word mundane, but like we want to feel I mean, when people create new products, like if you're talking like a startup person or something, they're like, "Oh, always make your new innovative idea and make it different." It's like that's great, but there's so much confusion and there's so much barrier to entry with crypto that we really tried to kind of make it very similar to traditional finance. Like if you look at the products there, very similar what Fidelity's created over the last 25 years, with the historical volatility models. The point of that is an everyday user can look at that and be like, oh, I get this. You know what I mean? And it's not, there's no hidden stuff. It's transparent. It shows like the best 12 months, the worst 12 months. Like we don't, like if the market does poorly, like we just survived this crash. Like it's not live, but I mean, all of our data is live. It's real products. You know what I mean? So obviously the yield went down a ton with this market crash, but everything worked as normal. No one got liquidated. No one like CeFi did not. Like they liquidated users first to pay back debts. They shut down. They withdraw. People are getting indicted. You know what I mean? Like that. We kind of saw the whole Celsius thing and all that. Like we've been talking about that for a while, but man, I thought that would take a couple years or longer to blow up, and that just all happened in front of us. So it kind of makes it very apparent for the need of self custody. And I think a lot of people just didn't realize that before, even what self custody was. So it's kind of our burden to educate, but also like we'll stay true to that. So it'll be interesting how it progresses.
Yeah. Going jumping back to like what you said about wanting to be like mundane. I think someone once said like Polygon is gonna be like as invisible as Intel or AMD. Like you don't even know you're using it. It's just there, and I feel like your app kind of like falls under those lines, where it's like you're using all these DeFi things, and it's not even there. You're just abstracting away all the complexity of it, and yeah, it's just definitely like falls under what the next narrative is gonna be like for crypto, in my opinion, which is like scaling and like mass adoption and like ease of use.
I
um
definitely agree with that. Yeah, and the abstraction, you could abstract it away and then just never say what's going on. But like we have a button in the app. There's only four buttons on the bottom, right? Like one of them is risk. We're calling it risk because it's gonna be a bunch of different stuff. We'll have tools and all that, but we're going really heavy on content. So like educational content, explaining everything how it works because there's like a spectrum of users. There's like no one's like dumb or doesn't understand these things. Like a lot of smart investors like want to get involved and they get it, but they don't want to learn MetaMask. They don't want to learn all this stuff. So there's a type of user that's just like, okay, great. Like I saw the website, I trust this. This seems all right. I'll invest. And then there's a spectrum going down of like, okay, like maybe I don't get this, but man, these products look similar. Okay, I can. It seems safe to fund it. It's self custody. And then you get into the app, and then it's like, oh, this is what Gnosis is. This is what Polygon does. This is whatever. Some people won't care, and that's fine. And that's like I said, using email, like they shouldn't have to. And then we'll provide like all of the deep dive, and that's we kind of want to be that Coinbase play, where we kind of this big net and we funnel people in, and if you don't care and you want to use it, great. If you want to learn, like we'll be there to be kind of that educator. And then as that grows, I think people care more. But you're totally right on the point. Like they don't need to know that. Like they don't need to understand what Polygon does. They don't need to understand what Gnosis does if they don't want to. So,
Yeah, definitely. And I just want to let everyone know, if you have any questions for Kieran, please just drop them in the text channel and I'll read them out to him. We have E Key or E Chi. I feel like that's a Chi Dao type name. Maybe I'm wrong. Let me know. They're saying they're sad that Streams is not currently available in France or in French. So they're saying they would love to have it in French. And work on this kind of DeFi app.
I love hearing that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go on, sorry.
So I guess what's next in the roadmap or the pipeline for you guys?
Yeah, and then to answer that or to speak to that question specifically too. So we're about to we're about 2 weeks away or so from like freezing the code, like launching the iOS app, right? We already have kind of the first features like built and planned. Like we're gonna do index co-op, we're gonna do a couple other integrations, but kind of keep it the same thing. We've been, like I said, heavily focusing on iOS to get it launched, to get it out. I'm gonna go kind of just market that, grow that. But the development team, that's already our next plan. Is we're already hiring for Android native. And then we're basically just going to rebuild it in Android. So that's going to take probably 6 months, probably longer. But the second that that's out, we already have kind of the rollout plan for global. And Europe will be included already. East Asia will be included, like Latin America. Like we already have the on ramp set up. We already know what we can service and what we can do. So the exact same product will be out. I know it sucks hearing that when you're like, oh, well, 9 months, 6 months. Like, but it's our main focus to kind of to grow that. But I guess to answer your question directly, like we're just finally excited to launch. Like we want to get this out. People love it. Like it's I think we listen to everyone. Like it was already initially, but we've iterated 1,000 times and we really kind of listened to what everyone wanted. So we're really excited to launch this, get it out, market it. Our internal goal is getting 2,000 users initially, and then the company will be fully profitable at around 6,000 users. And we can get into kind of how the fees work and all that too. But I mean, a profitable company is a good thing. That allows us to really churn out and develop and kind of grow this. So, we have the plan ahead, and it's been a while building, but we're ready to kind of get it out and spread it. And also, we raised money. Like we raised pre-seed. We just did a bridge round to launch, and we're kind of going into our equity round. So, we're very traditional in the kind of referral and just driving, value and product. So we're going to do heavy referral incentives for the first few months. We'll have a referral program forever. It'll be the best in the industry, but we're really gonna, heavily incentivize in the beginning because it's helpful to us. I mean, you know how it works. Like, early adopters, early testers. Like, so we're gonna take care of everyone, and we want to build kind of those, super fans and really kind of grow this because I think it's gonna help people. I think it'll be a really good gateway to people. Again, escaping inflation. That's the biggest thing. Is it sounds like a narrative, but you're losing, 8% if you believe the government, 12% if you can do math. Like every year. You know what I mean? Like your cash is depleting, like you're losing money. So if you're not earning in something, you could do the stock market, but you don't really own that. Like what happens when everything goes to shit? You know what I mean? So we really, really are focused on just getting everyone out of the fiat system, escaping inflation, and then helping people decide like, okay, do I want to be very conservative or do I want to be more risk on here? So yeah, we're just excited to get it out.
Yeah, I think escaping inflation is a top-notch goal. I would love to escape inflation myself. It's pretty. I could go on a rant about this, but I'm not
Yeah,
going
right.
to. Lots of activity in the chat. So Fran is saying they would love to have this available in South America. Norbert, it's really amazing learning about this, and I want to know what the future will be like in the next 2 years. Um,
That's great. One thing on that note, to note real quick. So we're not just like we're really focused on getting everyone's users. Like we kind of hate that we couldn't go global at first. So please, everyone, download the app. Like, and I know that you can't use it, but like if you download the app, if you get it in there, and then you start typing in your country or your information, your address, like we're heavily focused on like capturing everyone and talking with everyone. So we'll register like where you if you want to give us this information, we ask you like, hey, what country are you in? Like, what are your things? And I'll reach out to you guys personally too. I'm going to be doing that to every single person. So we're already starting to kind of collect data on that, like who wants it, what countries. Like we have our public data of like who the most users and stuff are, but we're really focused on that. So again, it's going to be like 6 months until we can get the Android app out. But yeah, please download it. Please reach out. Please get on the wait list. Please get in the ecosystem, and yeah, it'll be soon. So
yeah, also, I want to mention follow Kieran on Twitter. I'm gonna drop the link to his Twitter page in the chat. He's hilarious. Lots of memes, lots of funny content, comments, good content. Really cool guy. So definitely go give him a follow on Twitter.
we try to keep it light. It can get it can get a little heavy on CT, but
Yeah, definitely. I feel like I have a lot more of a filter than you, so it's
that's good.
nice following
Yeah,
you.
that's good. Yeah, I know. I gotta. Yeah. No comment. Yeah.
um, cool. Well, you have a lot of experience with growth marketing, and now you're like launching this startup. I'm curious, like, I feel like you have some really good advice and like insight you could provide for people regarding like how to grow their online business or a Web3 project. Like,
Yeah, definitely. Sorry, I think you cut out for a second. Yeah. I mean, the biggest thing like is like with Web3 specifically, I've said this a couple times, like don't look back. Like there's so many reasons why to not do something or to leave your Web2 job or anything like that. And those are the reasons why a lot of people waited 2 years or 3 years or whatnot. Like this is the future. This is what's gonna it's the new internet. It's not just a new financial system. So with Web3, like if you believe that and you agree with me, like find a project, reach out, get on Twitter and just jump in. And you're gonna have to take some risks and do that. But and then, when actually growing a company and marketing and whatnot, like you need to fix a problem. Like that used to be step one. And, so there's a lot of problems that don't need blockchain. There's a lot of problems that are someone else is doing better. You can pick to compete with people and you can compete to not fix a problem, but like find something that needs to be fixed. And that's a really good place to start. And then focus on your users. Like again, it's a diatribe, but I read this quote the other day. I don't know if it's true. So, like, I hate even saying that, but I think it was like if you have 500 users right now, you're in like the top 10% dApps or something, which was I was like, what? So, I mean, obviously, it's a rough time right now. It's a bear market, but like, focus on users, focus on something that people need, even if it's something that seems smaller or something like that, and then just stick with it. I know that that's kind of like a top level thing, but a lot of times it's the psychology and the narrative of stuff. Like there's a lot of challenges and there's a lot of reasons not to do something, but you just got to do it.
honestly, that sounds kind of believable. There are like 500 DApp users being in the top 10% just because there's like such a large amount of DApps. And I feel like for a lot of people, they have um, high levels of brand loyalty. Like, say,
Hmm.
people they use QuickSwap and that's the only DEX they use because it's just what they're
Yeah,
used to using. Like, why would they go use any other DEX? And it's like there's all these people making like innovations on like the classic Uniswap V2, but it's hard for them to like draw people in.
that's it. And we had this big boom of features and this big like bull run for I can't think of a better word of ideas and all that. And then this is kind of like the culling period. Like it's like, well, what's going to survive? And this always happens. Like the last bear, the exact same stuff happened with like stable coins and DeFi and all that. So it's good. Like this is how innovation works. So it's like there needs to be a big boom of stuff, a lot of frivolous stuff, and that's fine. Very noisy, and then it'll pull back, and then what emerges from this or what will be kind of the next wave of what works. And I mean, this isn't stopping. You know what I mean? Like it was. I've been doing this for like, or I've been in crypto directly for I guess like 3 or 4 years now, and we went from being absolutely mocked to just an absolute joke to like, oh, this is obviously going to be the next financial system. So it's at that turning point. But man, we are so early. Like 500 users. That's like I mean in web 2 that's nothing. Like if you have 500 users, like you're probably doing really bad even at launch. You know what I mean? So I know it's different and there's this all the problems we talked about like user experience and the barriers of entry and all that, but like the opportunity is still so ripe. I mean, I really got into this, I guess, shoot, I mean 2017, like man, I guess it's been like 4 or 5 years ago. That's wild. But like I thought for so long, I had this deep complex where I just missed the boat. Like before dexes were a thing, like before stable coins were a thing, like I was just like, oh, like crypto, like Shapeshift was like the main kind of exchange, and I was like, I missed this. Like like it's like I it was too late. Like this is just gonna blow up next year. Like I missed the boat, and that was like 2 cycles ago. You know what I mean? So in the traditional finance system, a cycle might take 3 or 4 years. It's like two a year or something in crypto. So like to anyone, like you said, asking advice or to get into it, just get in, just don't look back and just move forward. Like you're not too late. It's a fact. So
And I feel like there's just so many different areas and ways to get involved in the space. So many different types of projects for like various passions. It's really open ended there.
yeah, I mean, it used to be just code, right? Which was like you had to really understand these new languages and whatnot. And now, especially with the NFT stuff, like I think NFTs got crazy and whatnot, but that was the best thing that's ever happened to like society or the industry or whatever you want to call it. Like it really, even though there were a lot of like BS projects and there is a lot of money lost and whatnot. Like that's just a natural progression. Like the consumers are here. Like they realize that it's real, and it's just a barrier of education. Like it's understanding like what like actual self custody is, what actual digital ownership is. What a lot of people ask us like, oh, where's the yield come from? Because they're looking at the percentages and they're like, what, like how can this work? And they're like, because their brokers have been telling them for 20 years that anything over 7% is a scam, right? Well, the reason for that is that the banks are getting these rates. It's just not people. So like when they think like, oh, how can you get this with streams? It's like we're cutting out three or four people in the middle. So you think of streams as more of like being your own bank. I know that that's heavily used, but the banks are getting 20% or 15% or whatever because they don't have people stealing money in the between. But the time it trickles down to your broker, and by the time you get to the S&P or whatever, it's only 6-7%. So the yields are there, they're all on chain. Like when you look at something like Celsius or Voyager, like they're criminals. Like they knew what they were doing, they took that money, they gambled that money, a lot of people knew what was going on. Like that's not on chain, you know what I mean? And when you go to like a centralized thing, like you're just trusting that entity, including a bank, to give you your money back. So like the first thing is like, is it verifiable? Like, can you see it on chain? Because then you're so much farther ahead, and yeah, have less chance of like risk and whatnot.
NFTs are the best thing to happen to society. Kieran Daniels, 2022.
Oh man, I don't know. Retract that
Oh
quote.
no, no, I'm quoting you on that. That was awesome. I'm just messing with you, but like I
I know it
completely,
was good though. Yeah,
completely agree with you. Like it's
yeah.
crazy how wrecked we get by the banks, and it's like really cool how streams enables people to escape inflation and escape the bank rates and really like tap into like a steady income stream. Um,
Definitely.
yeah, and I think it's really funny. The other day I saw this clip on Twitter. Is regarding some central banker type lady, and she is like talking about how central banks have always acted as an anchor for finance, and that like they need to roll out central bank digital currencies in order for central banks to retain the role of anchor in finance. And she's saying like free banking is like a big risk, and like in periods of free banking like led to chaos. And I was just listening to this and I was like, oh man, they are so scared.
Uh-huh. It's a risk to their racket, and they know it now because they told it was BS for a few years, and now they're like, uh oh, But yeah, the CBDCs are a super interesting thing because that's another thing that like people don't get. Like that's a surveillance coin. That's not that's not anything. And I think I'm kind of very skeptical of the government and centralized entities, but I really think that they're going to shoehorn this into a lot of people. Like I think that that's where like universal basic income might be introduced because they're sure as hell not going to do it and just give people money now because they don't want to help. But if they can give you money that can only be spent at a government store, or if they can give you money that like China just did, where you have to spend it within a month or whatever it is, or they can give you money where they can just turn it off and take it away, then that's when, and that's kind of sinister in my opinion, but like that's when they'll do UBI. That's when they'll start giving this money out. But like, don't be confused. Like that, even if they don't do that type of stuff, like that CBDC is to track you. Like that isn't, blockchain can be blockchain. Like people say blockchain are used by criminals. It's like it's on chain. Like it's the central banks are where money's laundered. So the the future is going to be wild, and it's going to happen really fast. So, and it's going to come at us really fast. So it's these things like self custody and these things like decentralized identity and decentralized insurance and all these different things. They're really critical for like the separation of like money and state, and that's really like the last battle. We had church and state, we had all these different things, and you see how that progresses society so much. Like I really think this is kind of coming up to the battle of like separation of money and state, and that's like the last freedom that people in the world don't really have pretty much anywhere.
Oh yeah, I love where this conversation is going. Getting a bit of chills up my spine. This is great. But yeah, no, it's definitely like crazy to think that UBI could be the way that these central bankers actually get the mass population to accept CBDCs. Because I sure as hell won't accept them. But I feel like if they incentivize it with UBI, most people probably would, which is a bit of a scary thought.
Yeah,
And
it's
it's
scary
like
and sinister, but yeah.
we have like decentralized governance, and then you're saying this is like a surveillance coin, and to me it's like cryptocurrency is like decentralized, democratized, whereas like these CBDCs, they're like the opposite of crypto. It's like more totalitarian, like control. It's in a way, it's like a totalitarian governance token. Like,
That's exactly, that's good. That's it. But that is what it is. Like it's blockchain's fantastic for quick transactions, but they're just using crypto rails to recreate the same system that they did before.
yeah, exactly. So, but yeah, I don't know if we want to go too far down this
Yeah,
can of
we'll digress.
conversation.
Follow
It's
me
just
on Twitter. Uh,
well, just want to remind everyone if you got any questions for Kieran or want to chime in any way, just drop some text in the chat and I'll read it out. And Kieran, is there anything like in particular that you wanted to talk about that we haven't already had the chance to?
Man, you really, I mean, these questions were awesome. Like you're obviously like so connected, and I see you kind of just reaching out to all these important people online. So you really get it. So thank you for this. I appreciate it. But man, we really touched on all the kind of main topics. We're kind of in that, I almost said weird stage, not weird at all, but like we're in that stage where we're just launching. So it's like we usually kind of have like all these things like, oh, this is what's going on, this is happening. Like right now, it's like in a couple weeks this is going to be out. So I just like have this big load off my chest, and we're gonna just start promoting it and using it and doing it. So, I usually kind of have some like things to talk about or some things that we're working on or questions, but I would just love, even if you're not in the United States, I know that it sounds counterintuitive and that's frustrating, and we really get that, but please reach out, at least join the wait list, download it, reach out to me, and I'd love to, if you're not in the United States, I'd love to kind of get you in the system and start talking to you and get ideas and any opinions you have. But otherwise, really just that Polygon 100 code is live and working. It's still in test flight right now, but we would just love to get everyone kind of involved with what we're doing. It's kind of the main thing.
Yeah, definitely. I'm just gonna repost all those links and the referral code in the chat
Great.
just so everyone has that. And yeah,
And test flight's weird. I think it shows staging in production. They're very closed source in how they do stuff. So use production. We'll figure out some better way to like notate that. But
yeah. And thanks so much for the compliment. Really appreciate that.
definitely, man.
Yeah.
I mean, I mean, we can pass that on to everyone. Like, it's very scary sometimes or intimidating to like enter a new industry, or especially with how opinionated people are in crypto and all that. But what I did and what you did is just get on Twitter. I mean, I didn't really use Twitter. I mean, I was in SF Tech. Like, I did Web 2 SaaS. Like, for years, I refused to be on Twitter. I was like, I'm good. But everything's on Twitter for crypto. It's this global network, and you can. There's a couple other channels, but like not really. Like Discord's huge in the sense of like individual communities. Like, you know what I mean? Like that's obviously the leader in that, but everyone's on Twitter and it's a global thing. So I mean, if you're wondering how to jump in, like start an account, go in on or don't, start an account and just start reaching out to projects. You'll be so surprised how people are open to wanting help or to get people involved or to answer questions. I ask questions constantly. Like, people ask me questions. I think like I'm a quote expert, and I'm like, I feel like a potato with the people I surround myself with. Like some of these like Ethereum core devs and stuff. Like I'm constantly learning and constantly asking questions, and I never get shut down. So, and that's kind of I feel like what you've done. You know what I mean? Just network and really kind of build your network and get interesting people on here to kind of educate. So anyone can do it.
It's honestly crazy how quickly everything happened because I've
Yeah.
only been in the space for less than 2 years. Like I was telling Justin actually, I'm so green. I basically just got in after the whole GameStop fiasco, looking for the next kind of GameStop thing. But then I just fell in love with the space. Like I've made so many cool friends, and I met them in person, going to like crypto conferences, and it's unreal. Like it's a life changing experience. And like on top of that, it's like you find it's something you could like really be passionate about too. Like it's
Exactly.
creating like a global impact. So there's an like now that I'm in the space, there's no space I'd rather be in. Like I can't like picture myself doing anything else.
Exactly. And you hear the same story over and over. Like it's, ICOs, everyone's like, oh, ICOs were such a terrible thing. It's like, yeah, I mean, it was like this wild new vehicle and people lost money and that was really bad. But like it also onboarded me. It onboarded like so many people. So it's like all these like big, whatever you want to call them, like, these like trendy things or whatever, like, GameStop or any of this, like I'd welcome that stuff. Like I said, like the NFT thing, like great thing for society. It's these like these things get people interested because you come it finance is just about money and getting money from people and more money, you know what I mean? So that's a good thing to chase, but then man, you open your eyes to this and see what it is, and no one ever looks back. So I think that's just going to keep happening and happening and happening, and then I think in 3 or 4 years, not five, like everything's going to be running on Ethereum rails, and it's just going to be, you get made fun of, and then these people think like, oh, I've had this idea all along, and then it's like, oh, well, I came up with that, and you're like, all right, Mr. JP Morgan, like, you know what I mean? But so we're coming towards that where it's going to be everything.
Is that a Suzu meme? Or no, it's not him. It's Justin's son. I swear I saw this meme where this guy's like, "Oh, I got this great idea," and then Justin's son like comes up, grabs it from him, and he's like, "My idea."
Yeah, that's exactly that. So there's always those characters and those players, but man, there's no I can't imagine being in Web 2 still. You know what I mean? Like that built the internet and all that, but man, it's so like just saturated and boring and just like regulate, so I mean, yeah, there's no better industry than this.
And I think one of the funniest things about it is like I was using my gamer tag as like a alias, and now I'm still using it in a professional capacity, and it's like what other industry can you like operate professionally with your gamer tag? It's the weirdest
Yeah.
thing to me.
Or your cartoon picture. You know what I mean? Like, hey, the new school's here, man. Like it's yeah, you can fight us or join us, I guess. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I would never go to war against the internet. That's
Yeah, no, undefeated, undefeated.
yeah. I think you touched on something really important when you said you feel like a potato compared to the people you surround yourself with. That's like super good advice for sure. Like always surrounding yourself with people that are smarter than you. You don't want to be the smartest person in the room. That means you're
But
in
yeah.
the wrong room. And yeah.
And ask questions, because sometimes it's like you just, I mean, even someone like, man, I have no idea what this word means. You know what I mean? And I like really understand a lot of it. You know what I mean? So it's still, there's always going to be that. So you just charge forward and just ask a lot of questions, and this community's awesome. Like just reach out and you'll be surprised how much people help you.
Awesome. Well, I think now's a pretty good time to wrap things up. I've really enjoyed chatting with you.
Yeah, this was great, man. Thank you again. Like this, I've been really looking forward to this, and this conversation was awesome. We touched on so many good things, and yeah, and I get again, like anyone has any more questions or something, reach out to me on Twitter. It's at Kieran underscore ETH, and yeah, I mean we're gonna be launching a new website like very soon. We're finishing up the illustrations, so that'll be a big push. We're doing a big contest, like a giveaway for the wait list, and then yeah, it'll be out soon. So if anyone wants test flight, share that link too. Like if you know someone, again, I apologize, it's only US, but we're really trying on that. But share it with anyone inside the US, outside the US, and yeah, we'll probably end up launching a Discord too. We just we were just like heavy building, you know what I mean? So it's hard. I've learned over the years to kind of just wait on active community like a Discord or something until like we're launched and we can get it out and we can kind of service that. So we'll have our groups and all that soon, but yeah, just connect please, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, definitely. And that's a huge opportunity for people in the space because the builders just want to build. So to come in there and help with like, yeah, the community and all that, it's like so many opportunities to do that. Also,
Absolutely.
yeah, we totally forgot to mention the contest you guys have going on right now where you could win up to $50,000 in prizes just for joining the waitlist.
And I should have plugged that earlier on too. So that's been just ongoing. As soon as we launch, we're gonna pick a date and like notify everyone that it'll end in 30 days or whatever it is. So it's all by the book. But yeah, we earmarked 50 grand for it. Like people, money works. So I think the top prize is the 25,000. If that's correct, I don't have it in front of me. And then we're doing like two, like 10,000, 120,000, 110,000, three 5,000s, and I don't have it in front of me, but it breaks down. So a lot of different people win, and it's just pretty, generic and straightforward. But I think we have about 5,000 people on the wait list right now, and that's starting to grow a lot more each day. But yeah, I'm gonna mail out. This is all just very timely, but we're just like I said, we just pushed to production, so we're gonna hit that wait list with a big incentive for people that want to try test flight, for people that want to get involved in the early beta, and then we're going to be in the App Store in a few weeks. Like it's ready to go. So we just got to kind of work out the kinks. So yeah, I guess that's a good place to leave it.
Awesome. Thanks so much for joining us today, Kieran. Really enjoyed chatting with you. And thanks everybody for joining in and listening in.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah, anytime. Hopefully, we can do this again sometime in the future, maybe early next year or sooner. Um,
Yeah, that'd be great. Since we launch and get it out, like we'll have so much more to talk about. And I mean, not that we didn't this time, I guess it's great, but more of the product stuff and bigger promotions and kind of feedback. So I'd love to just hop back on.
Definitely. Okay, we'll definitely make that happen then. And yeah, I wish everybody a safe, happy, fun weekend.
Thanks.
Bye, everybody.